Hey folks, Mark Arnett here, Sunset Builders and Maintenance, for another interview with a pro. Today we have Chris Wilhelm with Wilhelm Painting, and I'll let him introduce himself and his company to you in just a moment. As always, if we talk about something on here that you like, or even if you disagree with, let us know. You can reach out to us at info@sunsetbuilders.net. You can reach us on the phone at 239-236-9646. And without further ado, Chris Wilhelm.
Thank you for having me today, Mark. I really appreciate it.
Glad to have you.
Love watching these. I'm Chris Wilhelm, owner of Wilhelm Commercial Painting Services. We are a commercial and residential paint company. We also do drywall as well. We are located in Fort Myers, and we service Charlotte County, Lee County, and Collier County.
Awesome. Website?
Website is www.wilhelmcommercialpaintingservices.com.
Awesome.
And it is a local phone number. I'm sorry, it is not a local phone number. Originally from Maryland, so it's still a 301 number, but 301-529-7257.
Awesome. We've worked several projects with you guys since the hurricane, and when I was told that you were coming on the show, I immediately came up with a lot of questions, because your trade has the same issue that as a general contractor I face, and that is, I used to work for the trades last year. I've got a truck and a skill saw and a tape measure. I'm now a general contractor. And I can't think of any other trade where someone could have painted their mother's house yesterday and decided to open up a paint company more than what a painter has to go through. So tell me, my first question to you is, I'm a homeowner. I need my house painted. Why would I want to pay Chris Wilhelm to paint my house as opposed to my cousin's nephew's son?
Correct, yes. Everyone has the uncle that we've all heard. I have an uncle that's painted, right? So going with a professional paint company like us, you're licensed and insured.
Okay.
That is, it's protecting not only the company, it's protecting the homeowner.
Let me just ask that question, because I know the governor just changed some licensing requirements. Does a painter still require, is it still required for a painter to be licensed?
It's not required for a painter to have a license at this point, but we do have to have liability insurance and workers' comp insurance.
Okay, and we've already covered that, folks, on previous videos. We may do another one on insurances, but long story short, general liability, workers' compensation insurance by your contractors protects you, the homeowner. Carry on.
Correct. So yes, it does protect us, and the difference is with going with a professional company like Wilhelm compared to, as I like to refer to them, as Chuck in a truck, where a guy that lives down the street. You're getting the communication. You're getting warranties with your job. Every job that we do, we provide a 1-year warranty on top of the warranty you may get from the paint distribution company, that depending on the material that we use, which on some projects is 7 to 10 years, depending on the paint that we use. You're getting, like I said, you're getting daily communication every day. We're checking in with the homeowner every morning and at the end of every day for the project. And say the homeowner's not here, which we have a ton of seasonal people down here in Southwest Florida, I like to send pictures and videos, so it makes the homeowner feel comfortable and at ease. It shouldn't be a hassle for us to show up at a project. It shouldn't be a stress. It should be an excitement that we're changing a color on a wall or a ceiling, you know.
And you usually provide a schedule before you start.
Correct, exactly. I will always tell the homeowner what time we'll show up, what time will be done at the day, and the length of the project.
One thing as a general contractor that I really like about working with Chris is that he usually calls me about a day or two in advance, and he'll tell me, Mark, we're about finished with your project. When can we schedule a final walkthrough with you? And so instead of me chasing him down, he's actually chasing me down to make sure that we walk that project and I'm happy with what he's done. So that just takes one more management thing off of my plate. My next question, I have to tell a little story on myself first. So when I first got into construction a long time ago, I was living and working up in Buffalo, New York. And Buffalo has some houses up there that were built a long time ago, and a lot of those painters up in that area used oil-based paints. And at that time, I didn't know the significance of oil-based paints. And I was working at a daycare, and the lady said she wanted me to paint the trim. The kids were kicking the baseboards in the doors, and they looked all chewed up and everything. Well, sure. So I ran down to Home Depot, and I bought myself a gallon of paint and a paintbrush, and off I went. And 2 days later, that paint started peeling right off the door. And that's because I didn't know, and I would like for you to tell my customers, or our customers, the difference between latex and oil paint, when one can go on the other, and how you test for each.
Yep. So yes, you can never put latex paint over an oil base.
Correct.
You want to use a primer. You always want to use a primer, unless you're going to paint it back with oil base. And luckily, you know, paint has evolved in so much in the last 20 years that almost everything we used to paint in oil, we can now actually paint with a latex paint. So, but you can test it as far as using denatured alcohol. That's a good way to test it to see if it's a latex-based paint.
How's that work?
So basically, you put a little bit on a wet rag, and if it doesn't wipe off, it's going to be an oil-based paint.
Okay.
So, and if it does wipe off, it's going to be a latex-based paint.
Now let's talk about that for 1 second. We buy a lot of trim boards that have been prepped at a factory somewhere. They're mass-produced, and they come, my favorite word, pre-primed.
Yep.
Now, do you do anything extra to those boards when you paint them, or do you just accept that primer coat and go?
No, we'll still put a primer coat on it. It's
Why do you do that?
It just makes the adhesion better. As far as, same with like when we do our walls and everything, it makes the adhesion better.
So I have found the hard way. That's why I'm a general contractor. I've made more mistakes than everybody else. We got a shipment of base and case in from a local vendor, and they drop shipped it on the job site, put it inside, stored it right away, and we painted it. And I noticed that my paint coat started peeling right away. And I called my rep and well, Marc, it's latex, and turns out the way they apply their latex, it almost becomes an oil-based coat. It's literally baked in.
Okay.
And so the substrate wasn't open. That's a whole deeper topic we might get into. But essentially, I was trying to put a latex coat on a latex coat, which is allowed, but the way that factory had applied that coat of paint, it sealed the substrate up, and it wouldn't take what I was putting on. If you're buying some of these products that are pre-primed, you may want to take some light grit sandpaper and just scuff the surface up, and what that does is that will open up the grain of the product, and then your paint will stick. You say you can still prime it and it would work?
Well, you would prime it and sand it, like you're saying. You're doing both. Like with primers on anything, whether it's trim, walls, that's your most important coat.
Okay.
Believe it or not, you can top coat with a lot of different paints, but your primer coat has to be one of the best coats, especially if we're talking exteriors. You know, 90% of the buildings down here are stucco, right? So you need to put a masonry conditioner on all of those walls, so that way your paint does last 7-10 years, not 1 year and it fades and it starts chalking off. You know, and that's usually the time you can tell when it's time to paint, is once your house starts chalking, which you can just wipe your finger, and if your fingertip's white, you kind of want to
got to paint.
Kind of got to paint. Yeah.
I apologize for writing. Every time you start talking, I think of something else I want to talk about, which is good. Keeps us going.
Of course.
A topic that I like to talk about with my customers when I'm selling, the quality of the paint versus how much that gallon of paint will cover. A lot of people have this notion that, I can buy this gallon of paint will cover 400 square feet, but this really good gallon of paint will only cover 250 to 300 square feet. Can you explain to the customers why that happens? And it has to do with the fillers that the cheaper brands put in, I think. Right,
exactly. The cheaper brands aren't going to cover as well. It also depends on your substrate. Like if you have a knockdown texture compared to a flat texture on drywall, your paint's going to go a lot further.
Right.
Depending on that. Yeah, but yes, there's builder grade, which we know some people use, but then there's really good high-end stuff, which I like to use, and it gives you a better finish at the end of the day.
It lays down nicer.
It lays down nicer. It gives you a little bit more protection. You can't, especially with like a satin or eggshell finish, it's going to protect the walls a little bit more.
So what's a standard rule of thumb if we're painting freshly done drywall, like we just hung all the drywall, we've taped and mudded and put the finish coat of mud on it.
Yep.
What's the standard rule of thumb for for painting that. Obviously, we want to do a good primer coat.
Correct.
And why do I need to do that primer coat? I know, but tell me why.
Right. So you want it for one, the adhesion, and one, to show the imperfections. If there's any imperfections after the drywall, you'll be able to touch those areas up before you put your nice finish coat on.
Something else that people don't know: if you have freshly finished drywall and you put your finish coat of paint over top of that, there's usually a fine layer of dust on that. I don't care how much you wipe it.
Yep.
And your paint will not stick to the substrate. It's actually sticking to those dust particles, and you can come and put your thumbnail behind it and you can rip it right off the wall.
Correct.
Done it a lot. So there's a couple of steps in there. Number one, you want to wash that wall a little bit lightly, but number two, that primer coat, strangely enough, will stick to that dust,
right,
and it'll lock it in. So that's one of the important concepts of the primer coat. We do repairs and maintenance, and I see a lot of guys that'll just come in there and they'll whip out the finished coat of paint. I'm like,
nope.
Don't skip the primer coat.
Exactly. It's kind of like when you refinish a door after a stain coat and you put your first coat of Slera. It raises the grain, as you know, on a door. So we lightly sand it with some 220 grit sandpaper before you put that final coat to make it nice and smooth.
Yep. Stucco, you mentioned it earlier. A lot of houses down here are finished off with stucco. Most homeowners don't know there's a time window where stucco is referred to as being hot or ready for paint.
Correct.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's because it's not cured yet, at the end of the day.
And what happens if I paint it and it's not cured?
One, it's going to suck it in a lot more,
Yep.
so you're going to go through probably double the amount of material that you had estimated on the project.
Okay.
I've learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
About 14 years when I moved to Southwest Florida, we didn't have stucco where I lived originally, so yeah, you learn that really quick.
So is there a product that I can put, how do I treat what we call hot stucco? And folks, for the record, hot stucco is stucco that's been freshly applied. It's less than, well, there's an actual time frame, but I'm going to just say it's like less than 5 days old. Is there a process? I know of two of them. I'm asking you, how do you treat hot stucco?
Yeah, there's a different primer that you would use for
Okay.
it, and then, like I said, you still got to let that primer make sure it cure, make sure it completely dry. We can't, on something like that, you can't put the primer and then 2 hours later, just because it's 94 degrees out here in the middle of summer, put the top coat on. You got to let that dry.
So the other method to working with stucco is time and water. And if you can't afford it's called hot stucco primer, it's kind of expensive, all things considered. Yep. But if you can't afford that route, but you have time on your hands, you can sit there and wet the walls down repeatedly over the course of it takes, typically we allocate 45 days for 5/8 to 3/4 inch stucco to cure. You can speed that process up to maybe 15 to 20 days if you continually wet the wall down with water. It helps bleed out the chemicals in the stucco so that when we go to prime and paint it with regular primer, the stucco and the lime in the stucco just doesn't suck the paint right into it.
Right.
So you have two methods. You can do hot stucco primer, or you can wet a wall down with the water repeatedly every day for about 2 weeks. Either one works.
Yep. I guess just as tons of time frame, I guess, for the project.
Another question I see, or another problem I see down in Southwest Florida, especially with a certain age range of homes, are stucco cracks, and it comes right through the paint. Tell me what's going on there.
Yeah. So it's the
Just to be clear, these are little hairline.
Yep.
I'm not talking massive structural cracks where you see your blocks or cracking out. These are little hairline cracks. You usually see them around windows and doors, and they're usually trailing off, and they kind of look like a spider web a lot of times. So.
Yep, it's the house settling. It's a lot of it's the house settling, and our solution for that is we put an elastomeric caulk in it, which an elastomeric caulk gives you that flexibility. So, it goes down to, say, 35 degrees and goes up to 105 degrees, I think. So it gives you that flexibility. So over time, even if it comes back, that caulk's going to move with it.
Do they make an elastomeric paint?
They do. They make elastomeric paint as well.
I'm assuming that's a step up from the regular.
It is. It's a little more pricey, but depending on how many of those cracks you see on a walkthrough, you may go that route. It's kind of
so it basically puts a rubberized coating around your house,
correct,
if you will.
Yeah.
It's not an end-all be-all solution for everything, but it will definitely take care of those spider cracks. I have a different idea or philosophy. I think that a lot of those spider cracks are because the stucco itself is too thin.
Okay. Yeah.
The industry says that it, 3 layers, three applications, and it can be done in 2 if it's done correctly, but 3 normally, and it should be installed anywhere from 5/8 to 3/4 of an inch thick. The closer you get to that 5H number and lower, the more chances that you're going to see those cracks forming as the stucco dries on the wall. A lot of people get irritated with the final paint on the wall when they see these cracks in them, and it's not the paint per se. I think it might be your stucco and the way it was applied. That's why general contractors, if we're earning our money, we watch those stucco guys putting that stuff on, and we make sure that they're putting on the scratch coat, the brown coat, and the finish coat. 3 steps, everything should be good to go.
Correct, yeah.
Chris, if you had, and you do, you've got time here, and you're pandering to your audience shamelessly.
Yes.
What is it about you as a painter that I need? It's just, I got to hire this guy. I've got options. I can go cheap to whatever. I need this guy.
Correct. Well, one, I'm very OCD, and I've also been in painting. It may not look that way, but 23 years now.
Awesome.
I grew up on job sites. My dad was a GC back in Maryland, and I grew up on job sites and fell in love with painting at about 12 years old.
Now, how long have you been in Florida?
I've been in Florida now 14 years.
Okay, so you're almost native.
Yeah, yeah. I claim Florida home. I love this state. I claim home for sure, for sure. But yeah, if communication is a huge value to you, your guys showing up on time, finishing a project when we say we're going to finish a project, and with quality, and not disrupting your home or business, that's with minimal disruption, I guess I would like to say.
Let's talk about the bad word in our business, warranty callbacks, or you just screwed something up. How does your company handle those problems?
Yeah, so like I said, we get a 1-year warranty.
Gallon of paint fell on my carpet.
Yep. No problem.
Guarantee it's happened.
Oh, 100% it's happened. It's 100% it's happened. So they call the office, they call me, and I come right out. I come out within 24 hours, and we come up with a solution. We may not fix it that day, but we're going to come up with a solution.
Okay.
Whether it's replace something like that, we may replace the carpet. I work with good vendors as well as you do, I know, and we'll replace the carpet, or something like, say the color starts fading in a certain area or something like that, we'll come and touch it up for you. You always have leftover paint on every job. I don't need the extra paint. I love leaving it with the clients,
Yep.
That kind of stuff. So, yeah, it kind of gives you a peace of mind that, crap, if something happens 9 months from now, I'm not going anywhere.
No.
I love Southwest Florida, and
I tell people all the time, this is where I live, this is where I do business. I'm not going to jeopardize my business over the cost of your warranty callback claim, whatever that might be.
Right.
And I like what you're saying, because I tell my staff, you have 24 hours to respond to that phone call, whether it's me or my field guys or our project management from the office. Somebody needs to make contact with that customer, and then somebody needs to get out there and talk to them, and because that's their world. They see that every single day, and they're not happy. Go take care of that.
Exactly, and it's just having the solution. There's a solution for everything. You just have to show urgency, to get out there.
If you ignore those issues, they just get bigger.
Correct.
And that's not what we want to do. So,
yep.
Let's talk about the interactions real quick between a general contractor and a subcontractor. We've spent the first part of this conversation about talking where you're working directly with a homeowner. Mm-hmm. From your perspective, when does a general contractor need to get involved with a client, and then your work go underneath of their umbrella?
Yeah, so I guess if it's something major or something catastrophic, if it's something that we've done, I'll always communicate with your project manager of the job, and tell them what's going on first, because I want everyone to be in the loop, the whole project. I don't like surprises, and that's the last thing I'd ever want to give a general contractor. No, if it's something that say we accidentally broke something,
Well, I wasn't even referring so much as a warranty, but just as a project. What type of project warrants me being involved, as opposed to just you dealing with it?
I think if there's multiple subcontractors involved.
Okay, that's what I was thinking about.
Yeah,
basically a general contractor is going to serve as your project manager for the entire job. And our expertise is we do this every day. I know how he's supposed to do his job. And while I have every confidence in the world that he's going to do it that way, either myself, my project manager, my superintendent, we're there watching to make sure, hey, if that bathroom wall is supposed to be painted with a semi-gloss paint, they don't just pull the living room paint, which is the same color but only a satin, and use it in that bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
So we are the final customer advocate, not just for the painting division, but if you've got plumbers involved, if you've got electricians involved, if you've got HVAC work or framing or whatever you might think of your general contractor as your last line of defense to make sure all of those sub-trades are doing what they need to be doing, because we're supposed to have a little bit of knowledge about every one of those trades. Right. Difficult sometimes because the rules change all the time.
Oh yeah, but no, exactly. Like you said, you know when your electrician's showing up, when your plumber's showing up. So that scheduling is such a huge thing to keep that timeline going. You have to, for sure.
You're like a conductor or organizer. Okay, now you.
Yeah, you're the leader of the orchestra, with the little wand.
Many, many years ago, Chris, I used to work for Home Depot and Lowe's. They didn't pay me for the plug, sorry guys, but they came out with a paint, and it sounded like it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. It was going to save everybody time, where they mixed the primer in with the paint. We just spoke off camera about that a little bit. Tell me your thoughts about this process.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the pre-prime paints. I think that you have your primers and you have your top coats, and they need to be separate. They work together. If you look at a product data sheet, it always says which primer to use with the top coats. But yeah, as far as pre-prime paints, no.
So folks, if you'll look at the paint stores, you'll find that this primer mixed in with the paint, it's kind of a DIY phenomena. You won't find that too much at your PPG stores, your Sherwin-Williams stores. They tried it, and what happens is when you mix the primer in with the paint, it limits the level of shininess, or what we call the sheen of the paint. You can't go up above a satin, if I'm not mistaken, if you put the primer in the paint. So your semi-glosses and your ultra high gloss, those are out of the question. You can't get those. The other problem that I see with it, because I've done my fair share of painting, I don't like to paint because you got to clean the brush every day, is that it doesn't bond as well as doing a two-step process. If you get yourself a good quality primer by itself, that usually bonds to the substrate much, much better than these pre-mixed units. Wanted to quickly touch base again on your service area. Can you be a little bit more specific to our listeners in case somebody's thinking about a paint job? And also, in addition to your service area, elaborate a little bit. I know you do interior work, but what about one of my projects that's coming up? I've got a wooden fence on my house, and I'm going to need it sealed. Do you do that as well?
Correct, we do. We do staining of fences. We do garage floors.
Epoxy?
Yep, epoxy.
Okay.
Yep, we paint kitchen cabinets.
Okay.
It's a really popular thing right now. A lot of people are wanting to paint their, their old 1990s kitchen cabinets when the brown was, the style back then.
A lot of customers have those laminate cabinets, and you can tell, if you look at the one that's right near your stove, you can tell that laminate starts to peel every once in a while. Can you paint those cabinets?
You can. I don't suggest it. Honestly, with something like that, I'd probably reface them. If they want to keep the boxes, maybe just get reface all the new doors. Right. Exactly. Is there a ballpark price that you can put on cabinet painting, like a lineal foot price, or is there a number that you can give people? We get it, and the reason I ask that question is because we get calls a lot of times. The customers are thinking of redoing all the cabinets, redoing just the doors, or maybe we want to paint. Right.
And what I've learned is that a door replacement, it puts you just over 50% of what a full kitchen might cost. It depends on the cabinets, to be sure. The higher quality cabinets, you're probably going to push that number up even higher. Right. So we reach a certain point, and I just tell customers, there's so many new features that have come out on kitchen cabinets. If you want the soft close, if you want the, whatever, that special spice rack or something, maybe it's time to upgrade. Is there something that you look at when you're pricing this?
Yeah, for sure. It also depends on the size of the kitchen. Sometimes you could have a $40,000 cabinets in a kitchen, where obviously the paint cost is going to be way cheaper than that. But if you have one of our smaller homes we have,
Yep.
It may be just quicker just to replace them. And I'll be very honest with the customer about that, because usually, our kitchen cabinets are an add-on service. We're doing such great things on the walls, and then they don't like the color of their kitchen cabinets or
And
their
you just
bathroom
painted
cabinets.
a kitchen cabinet situation for us.
We did.
Right
Yep.
down the street. That came out. Those cabinets were dark brown and,
Dark
and
brown.
went white.
Yep, exactly. And that's another thing of using the right primer. So when you scratch your nail, it's not coming off. It's not leaving the grease marks and all that kind of stuff.
Awesome stuff.
Yeah.
Chris, how many crews are you running these days?
So I'm running 3 crews right now. I have a main commercial crew and then 2 residential crews.
Okay.
But the nice thing is I can scale. As you know, you have different size projects. We do everything from a 1-day project to my guys right now are on a month project.
Yep.
So we're all about the relationship and who we get. Obviously I've enjoyed working with you for the last 3 years. I think now we've been working together.
You're a hurricane byproduct for me. I think we met at
At a chamber event, I think it was.
Chamber event. Yeah. As if I were a subcontractor, painter, whatever, looking to make my bones and get into business here in any county, do you recommend a chamber?
I do.
Did it help you?
I do. I mean, especially for the price. You can't beat it. It's like $320. Most of them are around that $325, $350 for a year, and they have so many free events you can go to.
Awesome.
Monthly. You have a coffee connection. You have a happy hour. And it's just getting you in front of multiple vendors. Not everybody you're going to do work with, but you do get to meet some really great people through it.
And they know your name, and you never know who somebody's going to talk to that says, hey, I need a painter.
Right, and they put a face to the business. Now, luckily for me, my last name is Wilhelm, so it's kind of hard, but not every company, has the last name, so.
Awesome. Folks, if you're a homeowner or a business owner and you've got some renovation work to be done, you want to do a tenant build out, we hope you'll give us a call. Once again, Sunset Builders and Maintenance. You can reach us at info@sunsetbuilders.net. or on the phone at 239-236-9646. If you need any painting only done, give my friend Chris Wilhelm a call.
Yep.
Chris, tell him how to contact you once more.
Phone number is 301-529-7257, or you can also look us up on our website at www.wilhelmcommercialpaintingservices.com.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.